Here in Germany, government plans to partially legalize cannabis are taking shape. The country's health minister says that possessing and growing small amounts of cannabis for private use will be allowed. If Parliament passes the proposals, distribution will be handled by consumer associations. A 5-year test phase will limit the sale of cannabis products to a few outlets. The health minister says that the aim here is to protect the public.
We're here with Henry. Henry has joined us all the way from Germany. And Henry is also representing a few clubs over in Germany. Henry, you mind doing a small introduction, just let our viewers know?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Henry. I'm from Germany. I'm an engineer. I'm involved in cannabis business since 2015 when I got in contact with cannabis harvest in Czech Republic, and where I found out that there's actually no machinery to harvest the flowers.
Yes.
And this is a new perspective in the cannabis industry, that we are going for the flowers. It has always been traditionally a resource for fiber mostly. And Germany, Northern Europe, everybody has been in a long history of the usage of this fiber, because it once started, or the main industry was the shipping equipment. So everything on a ship that was not from wood or iron was from hemp.
Most of my job is to be very familiar with the rigging of the ship, and the ship is rigged in hemp. The hemp has been reacting very, very well with the ship. The biggest challenge we have is to prevent any chafe on the hemp, because hemp is super, super strong and elastic enough, but only enough for what we need with the ship. Everything seems to just really work together well. We have a rope maker from Norway. She traveled to China searching for this hemp, and taught them how to process the hemp, and told them exactly how she wanted it, and got a whole container, several fields of hemp. Really, really good stuff.
Because it's the only substance that is saltwater resistant.
Yeah.
So that made the difference. So after World War II, they finally made it illegal until 1996, when they allowed us to grow low THC hemp. Okay. That means up to now 0.2% THC.
0.2.
And there is a catalog or a list of legal strains that you can buy, and you have to prove that it's this strain. You have to announce it to the Ministry of Agriculture, and so on and so on. So that is still a small business. It's a niche as a resource, and it had a boom when cannabis was legalized as a medicine, and that is a total game changer, because the patients and the medicines have a big influence and a big lever to move things. So this is a basic interest, and they just had to allow it once the highest court in Germany decided that one patient may grow his own cannabis if the state cannot provide him. So they had to move quickly and legalize medical marijuana, so that business started. And then it came the CBD boom.
Yes.
And now we are in the middle of a cannabis flower industry. And the machine that I created was initially designed for small farms that do industrial hemp, but they struggle at the 5 hectare or 10 acres limit, when it was too expensive and too time consuming to have all the stuff doing the manual labor.
Okay.
So my idea was to imitate this movement with the index finger and the thumbnail and just rip off the flowers.
Just mechanize the whole process.
Debudding thing.
The award-winning HHH 700 is the only cannabis flower harvester of its type in the world, with the ability to front mount to a tractor or telehandler, making it the most versatile harvester of flower, seed and stalk. This makes HHH 700 the best value machine in the market. With a patented design, it can harvest hemp easily with an attached cutting head. The unique design brings the plant into the machine with opposing chains and special compound rubber rollers, pull the stalk down, gently stripping the flower as if it was hand-picked, therefore protecting the trichomes and your investment. We have a number of storage options with the storage boxes fitted under the conveyor belt or an extended conveyor system for a trailer mount attachment. HHH 700 can also be used as a stationary debudder or super bucker. As cannabis is normally staked and netted, the HHH 700 has the versatility to be positioned in close proximity to the crop for harvesting, where it can be branch-fed by hand to remove the bud, or afterwards the HHH 700 can be moved along easily to the next plants for harvest. The award-winning TUV certified machine was developed by Henry Wieker over a number of years to exact German standard, using only the highest quality materials, with an aluminium subframe where all flower-touching materials are food and pharma-grade stainless steel. Under Henry's stewardship, the HHH 700 is constantly being improved, and this year it has been upgraded with an additional cutting heads and different compound rubber rollers, increasing speed and versatility of the machine. For cannabis, we offer a full-service conveyor system for trailer to grading, with preparation for storage or processing. Making the HHH 700 your preferred option will guarantee enormous savings on labor costs, and with the ability to harvest up to 4 acres a day, ensuring a superior crop and yield by harvesting on time.
From now, excuse me.
No worries. Just to get back to the legalization of how it happened on that side. It was also, so you were only allowed to grow hemp at first, then they allowed you to do high THC stuff for medicine?
Not at all. THC,
not at all. So CBD...
THC is an illicit drug, and even if we can... Still up to today. It may change within the next 6 or 8 weeks.
Okay.
But the actual situation is that THC is an illicit drug. And even if we can grow with 0.2% THC, it's not in all products allowed to have any THC in it.
Okay.
And there is a lot of struggle because they don't know how they should name it or what it is. Is it cosmetic? If it's food, is it novel food, then has to be classified. Does it, or is it possible that it can contain traces of THC?
Okay.
Stuff like that. So it's a vast irritation for the farmers, for the consumers, for the industry, and they are starting to roll it out now. So
they're starting to make
we expect the draft for the law within the next 6 or 8 weeks, and we expect the decriminalization of possession and home grow also within that time span.
Okay, so it's illegal there to cultivate. You don't have something like here in South Africa where we're allowed to cultivate cannabis in private and consume it privately.
Not at all. Not at all. It is, you are fined for home grow after a certain amount with 1 to 5 years of prison. And this is why we are so afraid to do it like you. Yeah? It's I could be a cowboy also, but this is more a suicidal action. If we do that, because you need only one neighbor who blames you for having too many visitors that
somebody
look
gets
like
angry
or it smells or whatever, and you go straight to jail.
And social cannabis clubs, do they exist in Germany?
So what exactly will be allowed if this proposal gets the go-ahead?
Yeah, Brent, acquiring and possessing up to 25 grams of cannabis for personal consumption will be legal, as well as growing a maximum of 3 cannabis plants at home. So that's the sort of headline on this. The government's also proposing allowing non-profit associations, essentially cannabis clubs, which would sort of cultivate plants and distribute cannabis to their members.
Yes, this Cannabis Social Club that I founded was a club of adult persons that confess that they consume cannabis, but the club is for anti-prohibition activism. Okay. So it's mostly to form a club, and under that club we did some activities. We have 420 Day, we have global marijuana marches, we have Hanfparade in Berlin.
Thousands of people have marched through Berlin to call for the legalization of marijuana. Though illegal in Germany, it's allowed in rare cases for medical use. Earlier this year, the government backed a relaxation of rules on cannabis use by the seriously ill if there are no other treatment options.
In Berlin and stuff like that. So this was more my political interest, and now it's right in front of our eyes that it will change.
Yes.
Okay.
And the club
so
giving you a
from there we are going. I think we are about 20 registered cannabis social clubs in Germany, and 11 have formed to an umbrella association. It's the CSCD, Cannabis Social Clubs Germany. So I wanted, or my idea was to install something like Grow One Africa already has achieved.
Okay.
And I just saw some difficulties on the way, and this is why I'm saying keep it low for the moment and establish operations in the Cannabis Social Club first. And of course we follow certain rules, you may call it, or
regulations.
It's more about the philosophy. I heard that you run your club under ENCOD based. For me, it has more diversification. ENCOD, I'm also a personal member of ENCOD, and I support the idea. But what ENCOD did is a huge overhead to make it reasonable to prohibitionists to understand what we are doing.
Yes.
And after legalization, this is not necessary in my eyes.
Yeah.
It is more that we don't sell into black markets, we don't use chemicals, pesticides, accelerators, we throw away molded weed, and we don't hand it out to minors.
It's got to be a safety aspect to it, and
it's safe, responsible adult use.
Safe, responsible.
Yeah.
So, in South Africa, it makes it easier for us to do that because of the privacy bill. Like where we are allowed to consume cannabis, and we're allowed to cultivate it. So we do it on a collective scale through ENCOD, through something which we call a stokvel. So all the members cultivate together, and they own the stokvel together.
They collectively own the whole field.
If we can see something like that happen on an international scale, if we can adopt laws like that, it can work. Basically, just what I want to ask you, coming from Germany over to South Africa, how do you see cannabis here in our country? Is it very different?
What do you think of the movement on this side?
I mean, it's always difficult from my point of view because I'm in the middle of the cannabis bubble. So everything around me is cannabis related, starting at the Cape Town Fair, coming to this place. I've been traveling over Cannabis Social Club. So I'm in the bubble and I cannot see it from outside. My perspective is still that it is more liberal here. It's easier to talk freely about it, and there is a deeper culture with cannabis in South Africa. That I guess for Germany it's like we are too obedient and too brainwashed to have that culture.
It's still considered a drug.
It was absolutely, for many, and it's stigmatized and demonized. And this is also a task that we have to fulfill. That it is not. It's only a plant, and God didn't make a mistake when He created cannabis.
Oops, I left it all over the place. No, intentionally left it there.
And we've intentionally got
let the prohibitions just wipe it.
and we've got endocannabinoid systems to work this plant and to.
I mean, how that works and how the benefit is with cannabis for us is totally clear. I just point out the damage of the prohibition to the societies, because that is much harder. First, it destroys the weed, because we find poison, mold, and we find synthetic cannabinoids in it, which is nothing else than Chinese chemical waste.
Yeah, exactly.
And people can't speak openly about it, so that information is not
really that point. And these things are not criminalized yet, because they're always new. They are always one step before, and there's a high risky potential in it, but it's just a substitute for free cannabis. Mm-hmm. So if we had that free, then a lot of problems are solved. So there's more about it. How is it in South Africa about driving and
so
cannabis?
transporting is still illegal. You're not allowed to transport.
No. How about
actually driving under the influence?
Under the influence, yes.
Okay.
Are there measures? Or?
There's no way they don't have a way to measure it. It's understood that you're not actually allowed to.
Yeah.
But people do, because they don't measure. They don't at roadblocks.
There's no breathalyzer.
They don't really have a way to test it.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if they have a way on that side, but around here they don't really test. They don't really drivers.
Test it. So
it's not really a problem.
If I should tell how it is in Germany?
Yes.
In Germany, you know that the traceability of cannabis in your body can last up to
days.
Up to 3 months.
Jeez,
so if you're a high consumer in a long term, they can prove that you have been consuming cannabis, and they take a blood sample.
Yes.
And if they find 1 nanogram of a nanogram of THC, Abbauprodukt. Sorry for missing the English word.
Yeah.
What's the leftovers of the active THC in your blood? If they can find a trace of it, you just lose your driver's license.
You lose your
driver's license.
Exactly.
Even if it's from 2 months ago. So not even I'm driving now, but I smoked a week ago.
If you apply for a driver's license, you should be sober for at least 3 months.
No.
Else you never get it, because they suspect you to be not controllable to drive not under substance. So you cannot divide between consumption and driving. But with cannabis it's impossible, because it's a long-term traceability.
Yeah.
It's just a second fine to punish you for the cannabis use in Germany.
And those are harsh measurements, eh?
Yeah, really.
And then you go just a bit further down in Europe to Spain, where what's the regulations like in the rest of Europe? Are they also strict?
Some areas not.
Well, in Europe, you've got some weed-friendly countries. People perhaps think of the Netherlands in particular, but actually those original plans of the German government went much further than even the arrangements in the Netherlands. What we're going to have now, what's been announced today, is rather less ambitious. Of course, there are different arrangements in the different European countries, and quite a few of them, for instance, have allowed cannabis for medical purposes for quite some time. I think another thing to say is things are changing on this, and it's increasingly being still seen as a public health question rather than a question of criminal wrongdoing.
Holland is accepting or tolerating cannabis use, but the production and purchasing is illegal.
Okay.
So the coffee shops, they are all grey market.
Okay.
Portugal has liberalized the possession and the use of drugs, makes it easier to access to clean drugs and to get support if you have trouble like addiction, or if you are homeless and drug addicted.
And that's all.
So
all
that's
substance.
all improved, and
that's everything.
All substances.
Yeah.
So the results in Portugal are amazing. They speak for themselves.
Back in the 1990s, Portugal faced a heroin crisis. 1 in 100 people were using the drug. It took something drastic to turn things around. Here's how Portugal kicked the habit. While the Western world experienced the social and cultural revolution of the 60s, Portugal was kept isolated by the dictator António Salazar. In 1974, the Carnation Revolution overthrew his oppressive Estado Novo regime, and the Portuguese people were suddenly exposed to newfound freedoms.
Censorship was at an end, freedom of speech restored, elections promised, and most important of all, the end of Portugal's colonial wars in Africa.
This was the catalyst that would lead to Portugal's problem. Attitudes towards drugs and experimentation were relaxed. At the same time, the population grew, with up to 1 million people arriving from the colonies, just as the country fell into a severe economic depression. As if on cue, cheap heroin from Afghanistan and Pakistan flooded Europe. While most countries had experienced fighting drugs, the new liberal Portugal wasn't prepared. By the 90s, an estimated 1% of the population was using heroin.
It was almost impossible to find a single family in Portugal that had no problems connected to drugs.
Dr. João Goulão formed part of a team of healthcare professionals to rethink how Portugal dealt with drugs. Feeling like they had nothing to lose, their solution was radical. On July 1st, 2001, Portugal became the first country in the world to decriminalise all drugs. What that means is while they remain illegal, possessing small amounts of anything from cannabis to cocaine or even heroin doesn't result in arrest. Users aren't considered as criminals, but rather treated as patients in a health-first approach. Instead of facing a judge, they meet a dissuasion panel made up of lawyers, social workers and medics. Before decriminalisation, around 90% of funds spent on fighting drugs went on enforcement and just 10% on healthcare. After 2001, that was reversed. Critics claim the change in law might encourage users and even attract drug tourists, and there is some evidence that suggests small increases in reported drug use. But advocates of decriminalisation say that drug users are more likely to find help if they know they won't be locked up. The number of Portuguese in rehab programs rose from just over 6,000 in 1999 to nearly 26,000 in 2008, while those using heroin has fallen from about 100,000 to around 50,000 today, and drug-related deaths have fallen dramatically. In 2015, Portugal had just 6 deaths per million people, the lowest in Western Europe, and a tiny fraction of that in the US. The numbers show just how remarkable Portugal's turnaround has been. Due to its geography, it serves as a gateway for trafficking into Europe, so stamping out drugs just isn't realistic. Instead, it's shown that a humane and health-led approach can be much less damaging to society.
They have a totally decreased crime rate, mortality of drug users, and they have in global a sinking usage in the population, so it's less interesting. If it's not forbidden, it's less interesting to
Of course,
to use.
people don't want.
So the youth, the young people, they learn that it's not a party drug. So we use it reasonably.
It's so normal. It's everywhere. You can go down the road and
First,
go get it.
it's normal, but second, you cannot party harder if you smoke cannabis.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. It's
Only if you mix it with alcohol, but I'm a total opponent of mixing up drugs. So if you take one substance, you have to know why and when and where and what
Do it
might
with
happen.
intention and with
exactly.
purpose. You know?
Here's a little question for you, Ben. Henry. If cannabis in Germany were now to be more legalized, what benefit can that have for the country, for Germany? In your perspective, what benefit can cannabis?
Yeah, the basic benefit is, of course, the threat of being criminalized for a plant. You know, so the most serious thing that happens to me is paranoia of police persecution.
Yes. Always having to look over your shoulder.
Every country where I've been going where it's legalized, nothing actually happens. So nothing happens because the drug is already there. It's just legal to use it from then. Mm-hmm. With all the decrease of dangers and of influences, nothing happens. There might a few shops open if the regulations say you cannot have advertisement outside or a sign, so it's totally covered. Nobody talks about it. If you go to Uruguay, this is a totally common thing now. You can smoke a joint in a restaurant or whatever.
Okay, it's
nobody cares. It's okay to
And
do it.
economic-wise, you think it has the potential to stimulate the economy?
That's a hard question for me to answer. Of course, a lot of people are searching for the gold mine in cannabis, and everybody is now, the young smart guys in the suits, they are already there, and they want to make big cash. My prediction is more that only a couple of bigger companies will cover all the supply for the country, and that's where it is concentrating then. So I think the same as everywhere will happen, that a lot of shops open and be eaten by the big ones.
Now, Germany is expected to become the biggest cannabis market in the world over the next 2 years. Plans to legalise the drug are pressing forward, despite concerns over the health impact. Ministers say the law will put safety first, though. When it's passed, it'll create opportunities for businesses, potentially worth billions.
A fledgling business is going mainstream.
For a long time, the belief was that banning cannabis would stop consumption.
Now the belief is there's legitimate money and jobs in it. But how easy is it to set up a cannabis company like Demikan near Dresden? These three mates from uni quit their jobs and bet everything they had on growing the perfect strain of Lady Jane for medical use.
From taking a new cutting to harvest is about 100 days, but within then the first 20 days, the plant basically doubles in size every 3 to 4 days. Because we have an HVAC system that can control humidity and temperature so well, we can grow the plants to this size without mold. Yeah. If you were to have this kind of a flower that is so huge, and they will grow even larger than that, they would mold in a greenhouse.
As you can see, these guys have a massive head start on the recreational market once the laws change.
We invested probably around 20 million euros. Investing in security was one element, and investing in high tech and in this, pharmaceutical environment, that was just quite costly.
They're not profitable just yet, but there's an estimated €4 billion market waiting for them in Germany alone. Patrick wants to make use of his pharmaceutical platform to supply weed from abroad to regular consumers too. He says creating his own strain was...
I think it would be best if I would tell you it was super difficult, which it was. A time frame of 12 to 18 months and a cost factor between €500,000 and €9 million.
You could always grow your own. The government may allow 3 or 4 plants per household.
I'm confident that Germany will see a flourishing cannabis sector.
And the black market?
It'll dry up in the medium term. At least that's what we're hoping for.
Cannabis could even bring calm to the planet.
For very sure. This plant creates a better world.
It'll be
economically, I don't know where it goes, because the money is already in the turnaround, so it's just the hands that change, and we want to have it just swapped into the white market and not the mafia anymore. We don't know how the mafia will react on that losses.
We don't know yet.
So
we'll have to
this
wait and
is
see.
the question. I think the economy in Germany, it will not be such a boost.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money in it.
It's so true what you're saying, because we're already seeing that, with the cannabis since 2018, people have now been allowed to use it in South Africa and stuff. And since that has happened, now all of a sudden you're starting to see Clicks, which is a massive corporate body they've got franchises in every town. They're selling cannabis products and this and that and that. They've already onto the thing. So it's not like the small farmers are really benefiting out of it as of yet. We're looking for ways to get that up and going, but it's been a big challenge. We also have the Ponderland, which are the guys that really need the assistance, which are legacy growers. They've been growing for a very long time, but they've now been cut out of this whole thing. They don't have a way.
I think there's a split between the profit-oriented industry and the idea how we more represented, like a culture and a common thing and a non-commercial thing. So there's a split. We have to divide between those two.
Yes.
And there are many people that just want to go to a shop, not being involved into anything with cannabis culture, just get my gram from the dispensary, go home and smoke it. So this is how it will be. And for the economic system, I'm a total friend of micro industries, to have it local production, support the local farmers, also with the small business, and push the big companies out as good as we can.
As good as we can.
Yeah.
And keep, like you said, locals. We don't want to be paying for all the diesel to transport the stuff there.
Come on.
Imported from overseas.
Same with if you see hemp as a resource, it's all the same. It's not very much different. If you transport the hemp stalk more than 400 kilometers, it has eaten up all its value.
Yes, exactly.
In fuel,
Yeah. Plus, it has created a damage for the environment because you just burned a lot of diesel and left rubber on the road and all that stuff.
It was besides the whole point of the actual beginning.
The rubber on the road is a major part of our microplastics. Probably you didn't know that, but
I didn't know that. No,
it's huge.
And just to get back to the big corporate companies taking over, it's like in South Africa, it's almost a scenario like that at the moment where with the licensing, if you want to have a license to cultivate cannabis and to export it, the barriers for entry are so high that the smaller guys can't really enter because it's millions to set up a facility and the licensing.
300 million rand.
Yeah,
that's where networks like Grow on Africa come in beautifully, because they've created this model where we can actually legally operate and provide a space for the smaller person, you know. So I think that's essential.
This is a political question, and we of course demand a number of licenses for clubs or for small entrepreneurs that can do it like with a low investment. There are the big companies that produce medical marijuana already, and they are in the business, and they say, of course, we have already built our fortresses and all the CCTV systems and guards and the hygienic systems, and we have just another facility with the same properties. We only need to switch on the light for recreational cannabis. So this is already started. They are already there. This is what I'm saying. We just can only make a counterweight to that with our efforts. And this is also important to make it public, to talk about it. And seen for the German situation now, we have about half a year to establish that before the license purchasing moves in.
I see.
And there we roll out our model. So coming back,
it's now time to build that network quick.
Yeah, and it's important.
It's a very important job.
Actually, and the situation all over Europe, you were asking me, it's so diverse. So Spain is undecided. Italy has a high consumption, but it's very strict. French, the more, they have a lot of Arabian people that are from, their traditional cannabis users. Most hashish comes still from Morocco. Sweden, a liberal country, has the harshest laws against cannabis.
Belgium, I believe, is also a bit more...
Quite liberal.
Yes.
But still illicit. There was the first cannabis social club, and also the Encode inventor. It was Jos van Ommen. Do you know this name?
No.
He is Belgian, and he has founded the first cannabis social club in Belgium, which actively operated. So
that's interesting info.
Yeah, that's good info.
Yeah.
I'm seeing now that we're running a little bit out of time.
Okay.
Would you like to throw out a positive message for any of our viewers?
Positive message, yeah. Hold it on, you're on good path. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Henry. We do appreciate it very much. And good luck on the rest of your journey, man.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time here in South Africa. And
we see you on the farm next week.
Best of luck with all your ventures in the future.
Yeah.
Next week we can do another.
Yeah, next
another
you hear
little
about
chat.
my machinery. There's more details about that.
Okay, beautiful.
We can maybe do one a little bit later as well.
Yes, like an extended one at when you come visit us on the farm.
Of course.
Would love to do that.
Would be beautiful.
We just need to catch Quibus's talk starting now in a minute.
Okay.
And then after that, then we're free again. Then we can do more stuff again.
I'm very
After
glad
that, I
we
might
caught
be
you there.
stoned, so probably not. So
No, that's cool.
But there is time. But thank you so much, man.